Dr. Kess stood in the medical bay of the Starship Sanctuary and watched the human medics prepare their equipment. Her forearms moved in practiced motions as she checked the bioregeneration chambers one final time. The crystalline walls of the medical bay gleamed under the soft blue lights, and everything was ready for the incoming casualties from the planet below. The war against the Void Swarm had been raging for 3 months. Now, and the Galactic Medical Alliance had finally agreed to work with the humans. Dr. Kess had studied human anatomy for weeks, but she had never seen their medical practices in action. Today would be different. Combat Medic Torres walked into the bay carrying a metal case that looked ancient compared to the sleek alien technology around him. His uniform was stained with dirt, and his face showed the wear of countless battles. Behind him came Field Surgeon Reed, who carried an even stranger collection of tools that looked more like weapons than medical instruments. Dr. Nix floated near the regeneration chambers, and her crystalline body pulsed with soft light. Her species could regrow entire limbs in just a few days, so she found human medicine fascinating in its complexity. Healer Vorm drifted as a pale blue gas near the ceiling, and his gaseous form rippled with curiosity. His people had never experienced physical pain, so the concept of human suffering was completely foreign to him. Medic Tal clicked her mandibles together in nervous anticipation. Her insectoid species used advanced biofoam that could heal any wound in minutes. She had read reports about human medical practices, but the descriptions seemed too barbaric to be real. The first transport ship docked with a grinding metal sound that echoed through the medical bay. Dr. Kess prepared to demonstrate the superiority of galactic medicine. Her regeneration chambers could heal fatal wounds in hours, and her cellular reconstruction fields could rebuild damaged organs from scratch. She expected the humans to be amazed by such advanced technology. The airlock hissed open, and the first human casualties were brought in on stretchers. Dr. Kess moved forward to begin treatment, but Torres stepped in front of her. The human soldier on the stretcher had a massive cut across his arm that was bleeding heavily. The wound was deep and would require immediate attention. Torres opened his metal case and pulled out what looked like a metal rod with a glowing tip. Dr. Kess expected him to use some kind of scanning device or perhaps apply a healing gel. Instead, Torres pressed the hot metal directly against the bleeding wound. The smell of burning flesh filled the medical bay immediately. The wounded soldier screamed and his body arched in pain, but the bleeding stopped. Dr. Kess stepped backward in shock, and her forearms trembled. She had just witnessed what she believed was torture disguised as medicine. Dr. Nick's crystalline form flashed bright red in alarm. In her species, medical treatment was always painless and gentle. Healer Vorm condensed into a tighter formation, and his gaseous body turned dark purple with distress. Medic Tal made a high-pitched clicking sound that indicated extreme agitation in her species. But the most shocking thing happened next. The human soldier sat up on the stretcher and looked at Torres with gratitude. Through gritted teeth, he asked if his rifle was still functional because he wanted to return to the battle. Dr. Kess could not understand how a being could thank someone for causing such obvious pain. Torres moved to the next casualty without explanation. This soldier had taken shrapnel to the chest, and blood was pooling around multiple wounds. Reed joined Torres and pulled out a device that looked like a small flamethrower. Dr. Kess tried to intervene because she believed the humans were about to murder their own wounded. Reed activated the device and carefully applied controlled flames to each of the shrapnel wounds. The soldier remained conscious throughout the procedure and even helped guide Reed to wounds he could not see. The burning flesh created more terrible smells, and the soldier moaned in pain, but never asked them to stop. Dr. Kess watched in horror as more human casualties were brought in and treated with fire and hot metal. Every instinct in her medical training told her that these humans were savages who tortured their wounded instead of healing them. She prepared to contact the Galactic Medical Alliance to report what she was witnessing, but then she noticed something that made her pause. The humans who received this brutal treatment were getting up and walking away. Some were even asking for weapons so they could return to combat. Meanwhile, her bioregeneration chambers sat empty. Because no humans would use them, Torres noticed her confusion and walked over to explain. He spoke in simple terms about something called cauterization. He said that applying heat to wounds could stop bleeding and prevent infection. More importantly, it allowed soldiers to continue fighting instead of spending hours in healing chambers. Dr. Kess found this explanation inadequate. Her species had eliminated pain from medical treatment thousands of years ago. The idea that beings would choose to suffer when better options existed seemed impossible to understand. She asked Torres why humans would prefer agony over comfort. Torres looked at the wounded soldiers who were already preparing to return to battle. He explained that time was more valuable than comfort in war. A soldier who spent 4 hours in a regeneration chamber was a soldier who could not help his comrades. Pain was temporary, but death was permanent. Reed joined the conversation and added that human bodies responded well to cauterization. The scar tissue that formed was often stronger than the original flesh. He said that many veteran soldiers had dozens of cauterized wounds that had made them more resilient over time. The alien medics exchanged glances that showed their complete bewilderment. Dr. Nix asked if humans actually preferred to be injured because it made them stronger. Healer Vorm wondered if pain was some kind of drug that humans were addicted to. Medic Tal suggested that perhaps human nervous systems were defective, but as more casualties arrived, Dr. Kess began to see patterns in the human approach. They triaged wounds based on combat effectiveness rather than severity. They prioritized treatments that would get soldiers back into action quickly. Most importantly, they seemed to use pain as a tool rather than seeing it as an enemy. The medical bay filled with the sounds and smells of human battlefield medicine. Dr. Kess realized that she was witnessing something completely outside her understanding of medical science. These humans were not just treating injuries. They were maintaining a fighting force under impossible conditions. As the last transport arrived with more wounded, Dr. Kess made a decision that would change everything. Instead of reporting the humans for barbaric practices, she decided to observe and learn. Perhaps there was something valuable in their approach that galactic medicine had overlooked. The stage was set for a clash between two completely different philosophies of healing. Dr. Kess could not remain silent any longer. She watched Torres prepare his heating tool for another wounded soldier, and her medical training demanded that she intervene. Her forearms reached out to stop what she still believed was an act of cruelty rather than healing. Torres looked up at her with tired eyes and gently pushed her arms away. The wounded soldier on the table had a deep gash across his stomach that was bleeding steadily. Without the proper treatment, he would die within minutes. Dr. Kess pointed toward her bioregeneration chamber and explained that it could heal the wound completely without any pain. The soldier turned his head toward Dr. Kess and spoke through gritted teeth. He said that the regeneration chamber would take 4 hours and his unit was still fighting on the planet below. He asked Torres to hurry up with the cauterization because every minute he spent in the medical bay was another minute. His friends were in danger. Reed joined the conversation while he prepared a plasma torch for heating. He explained to Dr. Kess that cauterization was not torture, but a medical technique that humans had used for thousands of years. Before they had advanced technology, humans learned that controlled burning could save lives when nothing else was available. Dr. Nix floated closer and her crystalline body pulsed with confusion. She asked why humans had not abandoned such primitive methods once they developed better technology. In her species, evolution meant leaving behind painful and crude techniques in favor of gentle and efficient ones. Reed applied the plasma torch to a metal rod and waited for it to reach the proper temperature. He explained that humans had kept cauterization because it worked better than advanced medicine in certain situations. When equipment failed or power was lost, a heated piece of metal could still save a life. Healer Vorm condensed his gaseous form into a more solid shape so he could speak clearly. He asked if humans were unable to feel pain properly because they seemed to tolerate agony that would kill most other species. Perhaps their nervous systems were damaged or incomplete. Torres pressed the hot metal against the soldier's stomach wound. and the smell of burning flesh filled the air again. The soldier screamed, but held still and even helped. Torres positioned the tool correctly. Dr. Kess watched in amazement as the bleeding stopped immediately and the wound began to seal itself. Reed explained that human pain receptors worked perfectly well. In fact, humans used pain as a diagnostic tool to understand what was wrong with their bodies. Pain told them where injuries were located and how serious they might be. More importantly, pain kept humans conscious and alert during treatment. The soldier sat up on the table and tested his movement. The cauterized wound held firm and he showed no signs of weakness or shock. He thanked Torres and Reed, then asked if his weapon had been recovered from the battlefield. Dr. Kess realized that this human was actually eager to return to combat despite his injury. Medic Tal clicked her mandibles together in rapid succession, which indicated deep thought in her species. She asked if cauterization actually made humans stronger or if it just prevented them from becoming weaker. The distinction seemed important to understanding their medical philosophy. Reed cleaned his plasma torch and prepared it for the next patient. He said that cauterized wounds often healed stronger than original tissue. The scar tissue was tougher and more resistant to future damage. Many human soldiers carried dozens of cauterized scars that served as natural armor. Another transport arrived with more casualties, and Dr. Kess watched the human medics work with new understanding. They moved with incredible speed and efficiency. Each decision was made based on getting the maximum number of soldiers back into combat as quickly as possible. A soldier was brought in with a severed artery in his leg. Dr. Kess moved toward her. Cellular reconstruction field, which could rebuild the damaged blood vessel in 30 minutes. But Torres was already applying a heated clamp to seal the artery permanently. The soldier would lose some circulation, but he would live and he could still fight. Dr. Kess asked Torres why he had not used her advanced equipment which could restore the soldier to perfect health. Torres explained that 30 minutes was too long when the battle was still raging. The soldier needed to get back to his unit immediately, even if that meant accepting a permanent disability. The philosophical difference became clear to Dr. Kess. Galactic medicine focused on perfect healing, while human medicine focused on functional healing. Aliens wanted to restore every patient to ideal health, while humans wanted to maintain fighting capability above all else. Dr. Nix asked if humans ever used regeneration chambers or cellular reconstruction fields. Reed said they did use advanced medicine when time permitted, but they never relied on it completely. Human medics trained to treat wounds with primitive tools because technology could always fail at the worst possible moment. Healer Vorm observed that humans seemed to have a completely different relationship with their bodies than other species. Most aliens saw their physical forms as vessels to be preserved and protected. Humans seemed to view their bodies as tools to be used and repaired as needed. A critically wounded soldier was brought in with massive internal injuries. Dr. Kess was certain that only her bioregeneration chamber could save him. The healing process would take 6 hours, but the soldier would emerge completely healthy. She prepared the chamber and expected the humans to be grateful for such advanced treatment. But the soldier refused to enter the chamber. Through labored breathing, he explained that his unit was trapped on the planet and needed immediate support. He asked Reed to cauterize what wounds could be sealed and give him stimulants so he could return to combat. He was willing to risk death rather than abandon his comrades. Reed hesitated because the soldier injuries were too severe for battlefield treatment. But Torres stepped forward with a different approach. He would cauterize the external wounds to stop the bleeding, then use combat drugs to keep the soldier conscious. It was not a permanent solution, but it might buy enough time for the soldier to help his unit escape. Dr. Kess watched in shock as they performed this desperate procedure. The soldier remained awake throughout the treatment and even helped guide their efforts. When they finished, he stood up on unsteady legs and demanded his weapon. He walked toward the transport bay, knowing he might die within hours. The alien medics were beginning to understand that human medicine was not just about healing bodies. It was about maintaining morale, preserving unit cohesion, and demonstrating that no soldier would be abandoned. The willingness to endure pain for others was as important as the actual medical treatment. Dr. Kess realized that she had been thinking about medicine incorrectly. She had focused on individual patients rather than the broader mission. Human medics saw every wounded soldier as part of a larger organism that needed to keep functioning. Sometimes saving one life meant accepting imperfect healing in order to save many others. As the last casualties were treated, Dr. Kess made notes about everything she had observed. The human approach to medicine was brutal and primitive by galactic standards, but it was also incredibly effective. These techniques had kept humanity fighting against impossible odds while other species relied on technology that could fail. The medical bay suddenly shook violently and emergency lights began flashing red throughout the ship. Dr. Kess was thrown against a wall while her forearms scrambled for something to hold on to. The void swarm had found them, and the sanctuary was under direct attack. Alarms blared as the ship took hit after hit from enemy weapons. The bioregeneration chambers sparked and went dark as power conduits overloaded. Dr. Nick's crystalline form cracked down one side as she was slammed into a bulkhead. Healer Vorm lost cohesion for a moment and his gaseous body scattered before reforming in panic. Torres grabbed his medical kit and immediately began securing loose equipment while Rid checked the status of their patients. The human medics moved with calm efficiency, even as explosions rocked the ship around them. Dr. Kess noticed that they seemed almost comfortable with chaos and destruction. A massive impact sent Medictal flying across the medical bay, and she landed hard against the cellular reconstruction field. The delicate alien technology shattered on impact, and sparks flew from the damaged machinery. In seconds, half of the advanced medical equipment was reduced to useless scrap metal. The lights went out completely and emergency power kicked in with a dim red glow. Dr. Kess looked around at the devastation and realized that all of her sophisticated healing technology was either destroyed or offline. Without the bioregeneration chambers and reconstruction fields, she was helpless to treat serious injuries. Wounded crew members began arriving from damaged sections of the ship. The first casualties were alien crew members who had been burned by electrical fires and crushed by falling debris. Dr. Kess reached for her scanner to assess their injuries, but the device was dead. Her medical training had always relied on advanced technology, and she felt lost without it. Torres immediately began triage using nothing but his eyes and hands. He checked pulses, felt for broken bones, and assessed bleeding without any instruments. Reed lit a chemical torch and began heating metal tools over the flame. Dr. Kess realized that the human medics were completely unaffected by the loss of technology. A badly burned alien navigator was brought in with severe damage to his respiratory system. Dr. Kess knew that only a cellular reconstruction field could save him, but the equipment was destroyed. She looked helplessly at Torres, who was already preparing a heated knife. The human medic explained that they would have to seal the damaged airways manually. Dr. Kess watched in fascination as Torres used cauterization techniques on alien physiology. The navigator species had different internal structures than humans, but Torres adapted his methods accordingly. He sealed bleeding vessels and closed damaged airways with careful applications of heat. The navigator survived what should have been a fatal injury. More casualties poured into the medical bay as the battle continued. Reed worked on a crystalline being whose body had fractured in multiple places. Without regeneration technology, the patient should have died, but Reed used heated metal to seal the cracks. The technique was crude, but it prevented the being from literally falling apart. Dr. Nix watched Reed work on her fellow crystalline being and asked if she could help. Reed showed her how to heat metal to the correct temperature and apply it precisely to damaged areas. Dr. Nick's forearms gave her incredible dexterity, and she quickly became skilled at the delicate work. Healer Vorm approached Torres, who was treating a gaseous being similar to himself. The patient was losing cohesion and would soon disperse completely without treatment. Torres asked Vorm if he could use his gaseous form to create pressure around the patient while heated metal was applied to seal the leaks. Vorm had never participated in such physical medicine, but he agreed to try. The collaboration between alien and human medics continued as more wounded arrived. Medic Tal learned to use her mandibles to hold heated tools while Torres guided her movements. Her insectoid reflexes were incredibly fast, and she could cauterize small wounds in seconds. Dr. Kess found herself learning techniques that went against everything she had been taught. She used her forearms to apply pressure to multiple wounds while Reed heated metal over his chemical torch. The work was brutal and exhausting, but it saved lives when nothing else could. The ship took another massive hit, and the medical bay filled with smoke. Dr. Kess could barely see through the haze, but she could hear Torres and Reed continuing their work. They used sound and touch to locate injuries when their eyes failed them. Their experience with battlefield conditions made them invaluable in the chaos. A section of the ceiling collapsed and Medic Tal was caught under a piece of metal. Debris. Her exoskeleton was cracked and green fluid leaked from multiple wounds. Dr. Kess knew that. Tal species required specific atmospheric conditions for their biofoam healing to work, but the ship life support was failing. Torres assessed Tal injuries quickly and realized that conventional alien medicine could not save her. The atmospheric conditions were wrong, and the biofoam would not activate properly. He prepared his cauterization tools and explained to Tal that human techniques might be her only chance. Tal chittered weakly and gave her consent. Torres carefully applied heated metal to each crack in her exoskeleton. The process was agonizing for Tal, who had never experienced such pain, but it sealed the leaks and stopped the fluid loss. Dr. Kess watched a human save an alien life using methods that should not have worked. Reed moved between patients with incredible speed and efficiency. He sealed arterial bleeding in species he had never seen before. He closed punctured air sacs in beings who breathed different gases. He even cauterized energy burns on crystalline forms. His adaptability amazed the alien medics who had always relied on species-specific protocols. The battle reached its climax as enemy forces boarded the ship. Combat teams rushed through the medical bay toward the fighting, but many were wounded on their way. Torres and Reed treated injuries in seconds and sent soldiers back into battle immediately. Their ability to maintain fighting strength under fire was exactly what the situation demanded. Dr. Kess realized that human medicine was not just about healing individual patients. It was about keeping an entire organization functional during the worst possible circumstances. While alien medicine focused on perfect treatment under ideal conditions, human medicine excelled when everything went wrong. The boarding action continued. Wounded defenders were brought in faster than they could be treated. Dr. Kess worked alongside Torres, using techniques she had learned in the last few hours. Her forearms allowed her to treat multiple wounds simultaneously while Torres heated tools over his chemical flame. The alien medics had become combat medics themselves. They learned to ignore the pain they caused while focusing on the lives they saved. Dr. Nix discovered that her crystalline body could actually help with cauterization by focusing light into precise beams. Healervorm found that his gaseous form could regulate temperature perfectly for delicate procedures. When the battle finally ended, the medical bay was filled with smoke and the smell of burned flesh. But every patient who had entered was still alive. The human techniques had saved dozens of lives using nothing but fire and metal. Dr. Kess looked around at the devastation and realized that she had witnessed something revolutionary in medical science. The emergency lights cast long shadows across the damaged medical bay as Dr. Kess worked alongside Torres on another wounded crew member. Her forearms moved with new confidence as she applied heated metal to seal a torn blood vessel. The technique that had horrified her hours ago now felt natural and necessary. Dr. Nix floated nearby, using her crystalline body to focus light into precise beams that heated medical tools to exact temperatures. She had discovered that her species' natural light generation could be controlled to create perfect cauterization conditions. Her previous horror at human methods had transformed into genuine admiration for their effectiveness. Healervorm had condensed his gaseous form into a dense cloud that surrounded a patient with atmospheric burns. By carefully controlling his temperature and pressure, he could create ideal conditions for cauterization while protecting healthy tissue. His people had never imagined using their abilities for such direct medical intervention. Medic Tal moved between patients with surprising grace despite her recent injuries. Her mandibles held heated tools with incredible precision, while her multiple eyes allowed her to monitor several wounds simultaneously. The insectoid medic had become remarkably skilled at human techniques in just a few hours. Reed worked on the most complex cases and explained his reasoning to the alien medics as he went. He described how pain served as a diagnostic tool that guided treatment decisions. When a patient could describe their pain accurately, it provided information that no scanner could match. Pain was not just a side effect of injury, but a valuable source of medical data. Dr. Kess paused in her work to consider this revolutionary concept. Her species had eliminated pain from medical treatment because they saw it as unnecessary suffering. But Reed was suggesting that pain actually helped doctors understand what was wrong with their patients. The idea challenged thousands of years of galactic medical philosophy. A human soldier was brought in with multiple shrapnel wounds across his back. Reed examined the injuries carefully and asked the soldier to describe what he felt. The soldier explained that some wounds felt sharp and burning while others felt deep and throbbing. Reed used this information to prioritize which wounds needed immediate cauterization. Dr. Nix asked why the soldier remained conscious during such painful examination. In her species, patients were always sedated before treatment to prevent unnecessary suffering. Reed explained that consciousness was essential for proper diagnosis. An unconscious patient could not provide feedback about treatment effectiveness. Torres demonstrated this principle on another patient who had internal bleeding. He applied pressure to different areas of the abdomen while asking the patient to rate their pain levels. When the pain decreased, Torres knew he had found the source of bleeding. When pain increased, he knew to look elsewhere. The patient active participation guided the entire treatment process. Healer Vorm observed that humans seemed to have a partnership with pain rather than seeing it as an enemy. Most species tried to eliminate pain as quickly as possible, but humans used it as a tool. They had learned to distinguish between helpful pain that provided information and harmful pain that served no purpose. Reed began treating his most challenging case yet. Another human soldier had taken a direct hit from enemy weapons and suffered massive internal damage. Traditional treatment would require hours of surgery with advanced equipment that was no longer available. Reed would have to rely entirely on battlefield techniques, but the most remarkable thing happened next. The wounded soldier remained conscious and began directing his own treatment. He told Reed where he felt pressure building up and when certain procedures provided relief. The soldier essentially became a partner in his own surgery using pain as a guide for the medical team. Dr. Kess watched in amazement as Reed followed the soldier instructions to locate and seal internal bleeding. The patient could feel things that no external examination could detect. His pain responses told Reed exactly where to apply cauterization, and when the treatment was working correctly, the soldier even helped position himself for better access to his wounds despite the agony involved. He understood that temporary suffering would lead to better long-term outcomes. Dr. Kess realized that humans had developed an incredibly sophisticated relationship with physical discomfort. Medic Tal observed that human patients seemed to take pride in enduring painful treatment. When a procedure was particularly difficult, patients often expressed satisfaction at having survived it. This was completely different from her species, who viewed any pain as a failure of medical care. Reed explained that pain tolerance was considered a virtue in human culture. Soldiers who could endure treatment without complaint earned respect from their comrades. More importantly, patients who stayed conscious during treatment could help ensure that procedures were done correctly. Dr. Nix asked if humans ever used pain-blocking techniques during treatment. Reed said they did use anesthetics when possible, but they preferred to keep patients aware whenever it was safe. Conscious patients could warn doctors about complications and provide feedback about treatment effectiveness. Torres demonstrated another application of pain as a diagnostic tool. He was treating a patient with nerve damage and used controlled pressure to map which areas had lost sensation. The patient pain responses created a detailed map of the injury that guided the treatment plan. The concept of using pain as a medical instrument fascinated the alien medics. Dr. Kess began to understand that humans had not simply accepted pain as unavoidable. They had weaponized it and turned suffering into an advantage. Pain became their ally in the fight against injury and death. A new group of casualties arrived, and the alien medics applied their newly learned skills with growing confidence. Dr. Nix used focused light to heat tools while monitoring patient responses to ensure proper temperature. Healer Vorm created atmospheric conditions that enhanced cauterization while protecting surrounding tissue. Reed suddenly staggered, and Dr. Kess saw blood spreading across his uniform. He had been injured during the battle but had continued working without treatment. The wound was deep and dangerous, but Reed remained completely functional. Dr. Kess realized he had been using his own pain to monitor his condition. Torres immediately moved to treat Reed, but the surgeon waved him away. Reed said he could direct his own treatment better than anyone else, because he could feel exactly what was happening inside his body. He lay down on a table and began talking Torres through the procedure. Dr. Kess watched in disbelief as Reed performed surgery on himself through proxy. He told Torres exactly where to apply heat and how much pressure to use. His pain responses guided every decision in the treatment process. The wounded surgeon was literally operating on himself using another person's hands. Reed remained conscious throughout the entire procedure and even made jokes to keep the mood light. His ability to function normally while directing his own painful treatment demonstrated the ultimate mastery of the pain paradox. He had turned agony into a medical instrument. When the treatment was finished, Reed sat up and tested his movement. The cauterized wound held firm and he showed no signs of weakness. He thanked Torres for his assistance and immediately returned to treating other patients. His own injury had become just another tool in his medical arsenal. The alien medics realized they had witnessed something unprecedented in galactic medicine. Reed had demonstrated that consciousness and pain could be allies rather than obstacles in medical treatment. The implications for future medical practice were staggering. Dr. Kess made detailed notes about everything she had observed. The human approach to pain and consciousness opened up possibilities that galactic medicine had never considered. Perhaps other species could learn to use their own sensory experiences as diagnostic tools. 3 weeks later, the medical frigate Sanctuary limped into dock at the massive orbital station that served as headquarters for the Galactic Medical Alliance. Dr. Kess stood in the repaired medical bay and watched as alien medical officials boarded the ship for their inspection. Her forearms held a datapad containing the most important medical report ever written. The inspection team included representatives from dozens of species who had come to investigate reports of barbaric human medical practices. Dr. Kess knew that her report would either revolutionize galactic medicine or result in humans being banned from all medical facilities. The stakes could not be higher. Admiral Vess of the Medical Alliance entered the bay with his official entourage. His species was known for their strict adherence to proper medical protocols, and he had personally ordered this investigation. Dr. Kess prepared to defend everything she had learned about human medicine during the battle. Torres and Reed stood nearby with calm expressions, despite knowing that their careers might be over. They had spent the last 3 weeks teaching alien medics their techniques, but they understood that not everyone would accept such radical changes. Human medicine would either be embraced or rejected completely. Dr. Nix floated beside Dr. Kess, and her crystalline body pulsed with nervous energy. She had practiced cauterization techniques for weeks and could now perform procedures that would have been impossible with traditional methods. Her own species' medical council was demanding explanations for her new practices. Healer Vorm had condensed into his most formal configuration to show respect for the visiting officials. His gaseous people were scandalized by reports that he had participated in causing deliberate pain to patients. Vorm knew he would face serious consequences unless he could prove that human methods actually saved lives. Medic Tal clicked her mandibles in a pattern that indicated respectful attention. Her insectoid species valued efficiency above all else. and she had discovered that human techniques were often faster than traditional methods. Her people might be more accepting of change if the benefits were clear. Admiral Vess began his inspection by examining the damaged medical equipment. He noted that the bioregeneration chambers had been repaired but were rarely used. The cellular reconstruction fields were functional, but most patients preferred alternative treatments. This confirmed his worst fears about human influence. Dr. Kess activated her datapad and began presenting her findings. She explained that human medical techniques were not barbaric practices, but sophisticated tools adapted for extreme conditions. The Admiral listened with obvious skepticism as she described cauterization procedures and conscious patient participation. Torres stepped forward to demonstrate a basic cauterization technique on a volunteer patient who had requested the procedure. The alien officials watched in horror as heated metal was applied to seal a minor wound. The smell of burning flesh filled the air and several officials left the room in disgust, but Dr. Nix immediately explained what they had actually witnessed. The patient remained conscious and alert throughout the procedure. The wound was sealed in seconds rather than minutes. Most importantly, the patient could return to full activity immediately instead of spending hours in recovery. Reed added that cauterization created scar tissue that was often stronger than original flesh. He showed the officials his own collection of scars from decades of combat medicine. Each mark represented a wound that had been quickly treated and permanently sealed. His body was a testament to the effectiveness of human techniques. Dr. Kess presented data comparing treatment times between traditional and human methods. Cauterization could stop bleeding in seconds, while regeneration chambers required minutes or hours. During combat situations, these time differences meant the difference between life and death for entire units. Admiral Vess asked about the psychological effects of deliberately causing pain to patients. Dr. Kess explained that conscious patients could participate in their own treatment and provide feedback that improved outcomes. Pain served as a diagnostic tool that no technology could replace. Healer Vorm demonstrated how his gaseous form could enhance cauterization procedures by controlling temperature and pressure. He could create ideal conditions for healing while protecting healthy tissue. The combination of alien abilities with human techniques produced results that neither could achieve alone. The breakthrough moment came when Medic Tal presented her efficiency analysis. She had timed thousands of procedures using both traditional and human methods. In emergency situations, human techniques were consistently faster and more effective. The data was undeniable. Dr. Nix showed how her crystalline body could focus light to create perfect heating conditions for medical tools. Her species' natural abilities had found new purpose in human-style medicine. She had discovered that controlled burning could actually accelerate her people. Natural regeneration processes. Admiral Vess reviewed the casualty reports from the battle and found something remarkable. Despite the loss of advanced medical equipment, the sanctuary had achieved a survival rate higher than most fully equipped medical facilities. Human techniques had not just maintained medical capability, they had improved it. Reed explained that human combat medics were trained to function without technology because equipment could always fail at critical moments. By combining low-tech human methods with high-tech alien abilities, they had created a medical system that was both advanced and resilient. Dr. Kess presented her most important finding. She had discovered that different species could adapt human techniques to their own physiology with remarkable results. Crystalline beings healed faster with controlled burning. Gaseous entities could regulate their cohesion more effectively. Even regenerating species could benefit from strategic scar tissue. The Admiral asked about training protocols for implementing these new techniques. Torres explained that human medics could teach the basic principles, but each species would need to develop their own applications. The key was understanding pain as a tool rather than an obstacle. Healer Vorm added that consciousness during treatment allowed patients to guide their own healing in ways that had never been possible before. Sedated patients could not provide feedback or participate in their recovery. Conscious patients became partners in the medical process. Dr. Kess presented her final recommendation for the Integrated Combat Medical Protocol. This new system would combine the best aspects of galactic regenerative technology with human resilience techniques. Patients would have access to both approaches, depending on their specific needs and circumstances. The protocol would establish training programs where human medics taught alien doctors the principles of battlefield medicine. In return, humans would learn to incorporate alien regenerative technologies into their treatment plans. The fusion of different medical philosophies would create something greater than either could achieve alone. Admiral Vest spent hours reviewing the data before making his decision. The evidence was overwhelming that human techniques had saved lives that would have been lost using traditional methods. The Medical Alliance would officially adopt the Integrated Combat Medical Protocol for all military medical facilities. 6 months later, Dr. Kess watched as the first mixed-species medical teams deployed to active combat zones. Human and alien medics worked side by side using techniques that combined ancient human wisdom with advanced alien technology. The results exceeded all expectations. Torres had become the chief instructor for the new medical academy where alien doctors learned battlefield techniques alongside human medics. His classes were always full because word had spread throughout the galaxy about the effectiveness of integrated medicine. Reed had been appointed as head of the new medical innovation division where he worked to adapt human techniques for different alien physiologies. His research was revolutionizing treatment protocols for species across the galaxy. Dr. Nix had returned to her homeworld where she established the first crystalline medical facility to use human-style treatments. Her people had initially resisted the changes, but the improved outcomes spoke for themselves. Controlled burning had become standard practice for her species. Healer Vorm had founded a new school of gaseous medicine that incorporated consciousness and pain management into treatment protocols. His people were learning to use their abilities in ways they had never imagined possible. Medic Tal had written the definitive guide to insectoid battlefield medicine, which was now required reading at medical schools throughout the galaxy. Her efficiency improvements had set new standards for emergency treatment protocols. The final scene took place in a forward medical station near the front lines of the continuing war against the Void Swarm. Dr. Kess watched as human and alien medics worked together to treat casualties from the latest battle. The integration was so complete that species differences had become irrelevant. A wounded human soldier was brought in with severe injuries and immediately received treatment from a mixed team. Dr. Nix provided focused heating while Healer Vorm regulated atmospheric conditions. Medic Tal performed precise cauterization while Torres guided the overall treatment. The patient remained conscious throughout and helped direct the procedure. But the most remarkable thing was what the soldier said when treatment was finished. He thanked the entire team and asked if his weapon was ready because he wanted to return to combat. Dr. Kess realized that the integration had worked perfectly. The alien medics had not just learned human techniques, they had embraced the human spirit of resilience and determination. Reed appeared beside Dr. Kess and watched the mixed team prepare for the next patient. He spoke the words that had become the motto of the new integrated medical corps. Healing was not just about fixing what was broken, but about making it strong enough to keep fighting. The fusion of human and alien medicine had created something that neither species could have achieved alone.